Hello and welcome to a very quick Yuriko deck profile that is going to be done rather quickly because I am running late to a flight, but I have anxiety about flying, which is why we are doing a deck profile. Okay, so we have Yuriko. I'm not going to point out every land, but I do have 31 lands, and there are a number of lands that are helpful to play. First, I would play one that guarantees you that you have both your colors and that it's going to get through for an attack for your ninjas. To swing, Mystic Sanctuary because it stacks the deck for Yuriko and for some other useful effects. Riptide Laboratory because personally I am playing a small wizard engine because there is bounce shenanigans. Reliquary Tower because you fill your hand very well in blue and black as well as with Yuriko. And then just lands that are in the corresponding colors and your right amount of fetches. And I run a little bit blue heavier than black, although that has changed over the years. So, onto ramp. I don't run almost any ramp in this deck. That is not by choice. I would like to fit maybe one or two more mana rocks in here, but Soul Ring because Commander. This will be the new Commander, newly reprinted command signet or whatever that just taps for identity. Talisman will probably remain Talisman because it's good. Moving on to creatures. We need a high density of creatures that will trigger Yuriko. We also need a high density of creatures. I wanted this deck to be relatively fast. Most of its draws get Yuriko down on turn 2 consistently, and so we need a fair amount of 1-drops that are not 1-drops just for the sake of being unblockable, so I've slimmed down our idiots over time. So Moth Dust is a ninja, and sometimes it can gain evasion. Changeling Outcast is always a ninja and always evasive. Stormtide, Siren Storm Tamer, excuse me, it protects and it flies and it's a wizard. You'll notice all of these upcoming are wizards, so arranging the top of the deck. Fairy Seer, same thing, and it's evasive. Wingcrafter enables evasion, remains a wizard. Overwhelmed Apprentice, Scries is a wizard. Hypnotic Siren is the last flying man idiot, but sometimes it confiscates a creature, and it's durable, like if they pop the creature after swinging, you still have a 1/1 flyer for Yuriko. Then, my favorite card in Magic the Gathering, Baleful Strix, because it bounces beautifully, and I wanted a reason to play Baleful Strix. Then you gotta play the Artist Proof Sage Owl with the Easter egg. I don't think it'll counterspell in the background if you could see that art. It's by the same art. It's by Mark Poole. He's a cool dude. Thank you for signing the card, Mark. I hope you see this one day. Probably not. Augury Owl. It scries. It's better than Sage Owl because it scries instead of, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Ancient Telescoping, just looking at the top and rearranging. Gilded Drake gives your opponent a 3/3 flyer in exchange for swapping, which can be useful if your commander is stolen. You can steal it back. But it's also useful because it's a permanent shift no matter what, and there are a fair amount of effects that we play in the removal section that just bounce creatures back to our hand, so we can steal our Gilded Drake back. Excuse me. Watcher for Tomorrow is a card that's come in and out. I actually like it a lot right now. It's a 2-drop, it hides away, and then when it leaves the field, whether that's just because it's a stupid 2/1 uncommon, or you bounce it for a ninja, you get your hideaway, so you get to look at 4 cards. You'll notice that this deck isn't playing a ton of divination effects to draw a raw volume of cards. It's a lot of card selection and finding ways to eke out card advantage. Umezawa makes all of our little idiots unblockable. Unfortunately, he's a rogue, not a ninja. Snapcaster Mage is Snap, and it's a wizard, so Riptide. Spellseeker, still a wizard for Riptide Lab. And a lot of our spells are actually small. Trinket Mage for Soul Ring and Divining Top and the 2 artifact lands. I'd probably get like maybe 1 artifact creature in here at 1 drop. Maybe Ornithopter or something. Sower, just to clear the way, and it's a flyer. Venser. These are all really good to bounce with Riptide Lab or for repeat value off of bouncing to ninjas. So that's the kind of the theme here. Archaeomancer. We do have a fair amount of power spells, so to loop Archaeomancer is useful. And then here's the clones. So there's a couple proxies in here. I'll point them out as they come by. But Phantasmal is fantastic. Phyrexian Metamorph. Spark Double for extra Yuriko triggers. It's kind of ridiculous. Or we have a couple of Planeswalkers. This is a proxy. This should be the new Sakashima with Partner, so that you can have a ton of Yurikos. And I killed my friend the other night with like 3 or 4 Yurikos. So yeah, that is a Sakashima. Clever is clever. Everyone likes to copy their opponent's Planeswalker. Ninja, you don't really need this card. You can draw enough cards with like Yuriko triggers and whatnot, but it's on theme, and it's like just a really old school card. Sakashima Student on flavor with Sakashima also turns whatever you copy, even if it's like their Eternal Witness, into a Ninja Witness. Fallen Shinobi I've put back in. It allows the deck just to like play a mid-range game sometimes. Like it's fat, it's got a decent body. It comes in, you know, with ninjutsu, so dodges sorcery speed removal and, you know, negs them and pluses you. Higure has some like a cool synergy later in the deck, but otherwise just searches your ninjas when it clicks, and it enables evasion, which I literally always forget. Snuff Out is basically free. You just need to control a swamp. Boomerang is Boomerang. Murderous Cut. We have a Delve package in this deck that's actually extremely important. I'll get to why at the end. Slaughter Pact. Also, Delve is naturally high CMC for Yuriko. Slaughter Pact, you just want some free removals for tempo plays. This deck is very tempo-oriented. So, it's not a Voltron EDH deck, but you do want to get on the front foot aggressively pretty quickly because uncommon to most blue-black decks, unlike most blue-black decks, you're not a hard control deck. You do have controlling features, but you need to use them to facilitate driving pressure. Far and Away, you know, could be a 2 or 3 for 1. Rift, Dead Drop because it's a 10 CMC spell, and also a very large Delve, which is very useful later. And then that was the removal. Now comes for Preemptive Disruption. We have Permission vis-a-vis Counterspell. We have Drown in the Lock, Force of Negation, Misdirection, Force of Will. Now keep in mind, Misdirection, Force of Will, and Force of Negation all pitch a card. We go plus pretty well in this deck, so that's useful. Mystical Tutor, there's a number of great things that we can find. Disruption, removal, and there's a couple of things that are still left to find. Scheming Symmetry. So keep in mind, we want to tutor to the top of our deck. This is a double-edged sword, as literally on the card. It depicts the downside scenario. However, we have ways to mitigate that and control the top of our opponent's deck. Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Intent. I'm running a small combo package, so there's a fair amount of tutor, despite this basically being a tempo aggro deck. Limdol's Vault is a soft tutor. It's actually a very strong pick in this deck because sometimes you're just looking for your 10 drop to kill with Yuriko. Brainstorm because sometimes you get your big thing stuck in hand, and with my proxies I have enough fetch lands, so I wouldn't recommend Brainstorm in a deck that doesn't have top deck manipulation in front of mind. Even if you do have fetch lands, it's kind of overrated in EDH, but in this deck it works very well. This deck kind of plays like a legacy deck, to be frank. Ponder, I don't know, it's just a good filler. Discovery Dispersal, it's like a decent cantrip that's a 7 CMC, and sometimes the Dispersal half is actually kind of relevant to get like enchantments off the board or something that blue-black is bad at. Forbidden Alchemy, you don't really need it, but it fills up the grave, which like, I have a Delve package, I have a couple cards that want to be in grave, and I don't know, like, I have a hard time taking this card out. It's just very flexible being an instant, it curves nicely. Same with Factor Fiction, it's just like classic, plus the old school foil. That's not coming out of the deck, I'm sorry. Dig Through Time facilitates the Delve package. We are a pseudo combo deck, trying to put together a combo as a backup package. And then we have a couple of unblockable enablers, such that we can facilitate ninjutsu and just beating our opponent to death. So Distortion Strike and Slip Through Space. Cling to Dust is just a very slept-on card. If you are inherently loading up your graveyard, you should be playing Cling to Dust if you have anyone that's doing the same thing in your format. So I'm, again, Delve package, and like this is one of those things that you just enjoy milling. Connive Concoct is a 9 CMC spell. I don't have a ton of huge things to hit off of Concoct. I have some bigger things now. It's fine. It could probably come out, but it's like, it's really clutch when Connive is actually good if your opponent's playing a decently small commander. Bribery because, like, blue-black, I don't know, it feels on theme. I just enjoy having Bribery. It, again, facilitates, like, sometimes just, like, resolving a mid-game spell that wins the game. And in this deck, you could do a fair amount of looping Bribery with Archaeomancer, Snapcaster Mage, bouncing either of them. So Temporal. So we have Top, we have Scroll Rack, spoiler alerts. We have some Scries off our creatures and our lands. And we have Brainstorms and Yuriko. So not only do you want big spells, just, you know, you don't mind revealing Temporal to Yuriko, but you do want to set it up and Miracle it. We could put it back on top with our fetchable island, the Sanctum or whatever, Sanctuary, forget what it's called, but you stack the spell if you have 3 islands. Then we have Divining Top, obviously. You get it with Trinket Mage. Scroll Rack, you can't tutor it. I mean, you could put, like, Trophy Mage or whatever, Treasure Mage. I forget which one, or the new one that gets 2s. And then only a couple of Planeswalkers. Ashiok, because you can shut off tutors so your opponents can't tutor. but you can also just Scheming Symmetry and then mill your opponent for 4 and exile their grave, which is fucking crazy. But also, you're regularly looking at your deck with Sage Owl, Augury Owl, Scroll Rack, Divining Top, Ponder, Brainstorm. So sometimes you don't want to get, and you don't have a fetch land, so you just want to mill and set up your grave with Ashiok. It just does like a lot at once. It's grave hate, it's tutor hate, it mills their deck, it mills your deck, it sets up for Delve. It requires your opponent to attack it, so you save a little bit of life. And it's just like a foiled sexy Japanese. I mean, I don't know. He's Jace. Fuck Jace. Brainstorms, I guess. Arcane Adaptation will turn everything into a ninja. Now, the reason why this is important is obviously because you have Yuriko, and you swing with Yuriko, and you fuck shit up and they die. But the fun thing is, you can also Arcane Ninja swing with Higure, which is the legendary guy that ninjutsus. Hits your opponent, you search a ninja. This turns all of your creatures in your deck into ninjas. So I hit with Higure, and then tutor like Snapcaster Mage or Venser, and the opponent's like, wait, what the fuck? Or Sakashima. So that's pretty cool. And then, I don't know, it doesn't have to be in here. I just put it back in because I noticed I was 1 card short. It works well with adaptation. You call ninja, you swing with a bunch of things, you draw a bunch of cards. Otherwise, you call human, actually, because all my ninjas are human. Changelings are everything. All my wizards are human, except for maybe 1, like Fairy. So yeah, it's fine. It's a little slow, but whatever. I like some of the more casual cards. And then, yes, we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm a scumbag. I am a piece of shit. I am a poo-poo nuts. So, yeah. So the Delve package actually works super fucking well. Thassa's Oracle is a wizard, so you can bounce it with Riptide Lab if you just have to play it early for like an attacker or to set up your Yuriko or something. Inverter you almost never play just as an inverter, as a 6/6, because commander life totals. Jace you can play, but you may need an E-Witness, like a fucking artifact-enabled E-Witness effect in this deck, in case you lose your Jace and then you can't combo out with just the Oracle and you need the Inverter. The Inverter is harder to pull off, but we have, I don't know, like maybe 5 Delve spells in the deck, and some of them are repeatable, like the one that escapes. I used to play like the sleep one as well in the same set that tapped a creature that didn't untap that could escape. So this is the end of the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can very nicely nestle this 3-card combo into the commander deck because you run on very low mana. Basically, you just hit 6 mana and you try to win this way, or with Jace Inverter on 8 mana, and it's usually like a Soul Ring draw. I wouldn't recommend immediately tutoring into them. But it's like one of those combos where it's like if you find one of the pieces early along the way, you just keep track of your grave if you're going to use Inverter, and then just like try to exile dig through time to find the next piece, or just exile along the way with Delve spells to play regular games of Magic, hoping to extend into this combo where you win on the spot and you kill the whole table. It's not as though someone loses, it's you win. So it's definitely cute. It can come out. This could easily just be like opt, another and like 2 ponder effects or whatever, or like, negates or something. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for watching.